We have an active shooter.
Let's go ahead and declare this a mass casualty.
Welcome to Active Shooter, a podcast that covers the whys, the hows, and the aftermath of active shooter and mass casualty events.
They have an active shooter in the building. A second call says they are being attacked.
I've been shot. 16910 means we got shots fired at 4:15 at Route 291. Sounded like an automatic firearm.
Active shooter, reports of an active shooter,
mass casualty incidents.
Thank you for listening.
You are listening to Active Shooter, a podcast that may contain adult themes, explicit language, and graphic depictions of violence. Portions of this show may be traumatic for those under 18. Listener discretion is advised.
This is breaking news from Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
And that breaking news is in Western New York, where at least 10 people have been killed at a grocery store in Buffalo.
Witnesses say a man armed with a rifle entered that market and opened fire. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sandra Bookman.
And I'm Joe Torres. The situation in Buffalo is still very fluid. New updates coming in by the minute. Eyewitness News reporter Naveen Dhaliwal joins us from the newsroom with the breaking details. Naveen?
Yeah, Sandra, Joe, the situation is getting worse with every update, but we can report this is no longer an active shooting with a suspect in custody at this time. Shots rang out around 2:30 this afternoon at a Tops supermarket. A witness told a reporter at our sister station in Buffalo that they heard dozens of shots. Buffalo police confirm several people were hit, and there are reports that at least 10 people have been killed.
Hate. It's such a short word with such a massive impact on how our society treats one another. In a time of incredible advancements in medicine and technology, the human race has made incredible strides to improve the way we live, making life better, easier, more convenient. Yet, in the process, we seem to have degraded by leaps and bounds in terms of compassion and understanding and acceptance, which are the very things that so many desire the most. The level of extreme hate that has permeated into the very fabric of so many lives is indescribable, and yet we must find the words. We must discuss and investigate these crimes and continue to seek the answer to the never-ending questions. Why there are so many mass shootings, and why there are so many of these loathsome acts rooted in pure hate for a specific religion, or race, or sex. Hate for what is, quote, different? We don't have the answer for these questions in today's episode, but we do intend to honor the 10 deceased and 3 injured shooting victims by telling their story. We do intend to loudly denounce the disturbing and disgusting violence that was spewed by today's shooter, who very purposefully planned his racist attack against the black community for no reason other than pure hate. Active Shooter, the podcast, is a High Five Holly production, and I'm your host, JT. If you've listened to our prior episodes, you know that the Active Shooter podcast team has taken the No Notoriety Pledge, and we will not be sharing the real name of the shooters that we cover. We will be giving the shooters a pseudonym and refer to them by that name throughout the episode. This will help in clearing up any confusion in the story, while remaining true to our pledge in not naming the shooter by their actual name. We will refer to today's shooter as Ward. Saturday, May 14th, 2022, began as usual for most of the local residents. The day was warm, but slightly overcast, with a lot of cloud coverage. It is perhaps the most fitting backdrop to the vicious assault that was carried out upon the innocent victims, survivors, and witnesses who were harmlessly attending to their day, which for many included running typical errands, such as grocery shopping. Shopping is precisely what so many were doing when their lives were irrevocably changed. At about 2:30 p.m., Ward arrived at his very specifically chosen location, the Tops Friendly Market. The supermarket is located in a predominantly black neighborhood in the city located at 1275 Jefferson Avenue in Buffalo, New York. The 18-year-old parked his blue Ford Taurus in the front of the store, collected his Bushmaster XM15 semi-automatic .223 caliber rifle, which carried pre-loaded magazines. He appeared ready for war, dressed head to toe in camo, with full body armor on underneath, tan military-style boots, and a tactical helmet that had a GoPro camera attached to the front.
He was very heavily armed. He had tactical gear. He had a tactical helmet on. He had a camera that he was live streaming what he was doing.
Not only did Ward plan to kill as many innocent black people as he could, he intended to stream the entire murder live on the social media platform Twitch. As soon as Ward exited his car, he aimed and fired, instantly killing his first victim. Without missing a beat, he scanned the parking lot, shooting a steady stream of bullets in an arc. 2 additional people were shot and killed in the parking lot, while another was injured. Aaron Salter, a security guard who was standing near the entrance of the store, saw or heard the shooting and ran inside to warn others of what was coming their way. Ward turned towards the store and fired several shots into the windows as he walked to the front door of the market. As he made his way, Ward added insult to injury as he continued to fire bullets at the third victim, taking every possible measure to ensure they were deceased. In other words, it was overkill. Initially, customer Julie Harwell thought the store was being robbed. She was at the supermarket with her partner and daughter shopping when she heard shots ringing out. There were so many blasts that Julie couldn't keep count, and it was then that the sickening realization hit her. They were all under attack inside the store. In an instant, they were facing a life or death situation.
There's a whole lot of shooting. It was just rapid. Just one after just kept going. And next, we came outside and it was just packed full of people. We saw, dead bodies. They were covered up.
Julie called out to her daughter and partner as she simultaneously dropped to the ground and tried to belly crawl through the aisle, trying to find her loved ones. She was painfully unaware that they had made it to the dairy section of the store and were hiding inside the milk coolers. It must have been the most excruciating 20 minutes of her life. But mercifully, Julie was reunited with her partner and daughter. The one shooting victim that lived through their injuries laid in the parking lot, next to the third person who had been shot. They laid for what probably felt like an eternity, playing dead. But as soon as Ward entered the store, they fled the scene on foot, desperately seeking aid for themselves, as well as everyone inside the store. Once Ward was inside the market, he immediately shot and killed 2 people who were crouched on the ground. At that moment, security guard Aaron Salter began to exchange gunfire with Ward. Aaron was a retired police officer and had specialized training just for situations such as this. However, the shooter was prepared for return gunfire, and as such, the bullets Aaron shot simply ricocheted off the armor-plated vest, striking, but not piercing the full body armor Ward had on. Aaron was hit with return fire and killed.
Fired multiple shots, struck the suspect, but because he had heavily armored plating on, that bullet had no round. The suspect engaged our retired officer, and he was ultimately shot and deceased at the scene.
Undeterred, Ward turned his weapon next on an employee of the Tops Friendly Market, preparing to shoot until he realized that the employee was white. It should chill each and every listener to the bone to know that this killer was fully willing to spare the life of this white young man, who absolutely did not deserve to die any more than the next person. However, he wasn't being hunted. Ward simply told the employee he was sorry, lowered his weapon, and moved along, stalking his next victim. He shot in the direction of the pharmacy, which is known because a female employee was struck in the pharmacy area, which happens to be located near the checkout lanes. Ward paced up and down several aisleways, shooting and killing another 3 people before heading toward the checkout lanes where he shot and killed the 10th victim. Each victim that was murdered was black. It was later reported that when Ward made his way to the front of the store, one of the victims attempted to intervene and stop the shooter. She lunged at Ward, but he immediately shot her, striking her in the head, instantly killing her. Numerous employees and customers raced towards the back of the store, seeking shelter in the stock rooms, conference rooms, dairy cooler, and freezer. Some ran right out the back door. Inside the break room, petrified customers and employees began barricading the door, pushing a massive desk in front of it. Ward shot through the coolers where others were hiding, but incredibly, milk cartons ended up acting as shields, blocking any bullets from penetrating far enough to injure anyone. The initial 911 call reporting shots fired came in at 2:31 p.m., and only a minute later, firefighters and police arrived on scene.
We're going to need some officers inside the top because we have numerous bodies.
There was so much damage and loss of life in this deplorable shooting, and yet it would have still been much worse had the first responders not arrived so quickly. Inside the store, Ward was ranting and raving, shouting out racial slurs as he ruthlessly wielded his gun. As he made his way back up towards the front of the store, Ward was met by a line of police officers from the Buffalo Police Department. When he encountered the police, he instantly put the gun to his neck. However, it didn't take much coaxing on the end of the police officers before Ward laid the weapon down and was taken into custody without incident.
He took the machine gun with the strap and put it to his chin, and I was hoping that he'll shoot himself, and he didn't. He put the gun down on the strap, and then he took the gun, he put it down. He did put something on his feet. He took his vest off, and then he got on his hands and knees and got on his back, and then they arrested him.
Once lodged at the local jail, he was placed on suicide watch for an unknown period of time, which isn't unexpected. Obviously, the murder weapon was recovered right away, and police were aghast at what they saw on the weapon. Different sayings, racist slurs, names of other mass shooters, and statements like, quote, "the great replacement," were etched into the gun. Investigators later discovered that Ward had a portion of the shooting live-streamed on Twitch, which coincidentally, or not, was the same social media platform that streamed a portion of the Madden tournament shooting that we covered in episode number 74. Ward's video depicted a young man driving into a shopping parking lot before he is seen in the rearview mirror of the video. Just prior to parking in front of the store, Ward can be heard saying, quote, "just go for it." The video streamed on the platform for only a short time before being removed by Twitch. Unfortunately, it was up long enough to be viewed and shared far too many times. About 60 bullets were fired during the attack, and after he was brought into custody, police searched Ward's Ford Taurus and found a loaded Mossberg 512-gauge shotgun, a loaded Savage Arms Axis XP bolt-action hunting rifle, and 3 loaded rifle magazines. A search warrant was executed at Ward's residence in Conklin, New York, and a handwritten apology was found. Yes, Ward apologized for his actions. Not to anyone that he should have apologized to. The sorry was for his parents. It was an utterly worthless apology at that, for the words contained therein were so ugly that they don't bear repeating. Also inside Ward's bedroom were a receipt from Tops Market for a candy bar. The receipt was from March 8th, 2022, and there were handwritten sketches on the slip of paper that were ostensibly drawings of the interior of the supermarket. It was another clear piece of evidence of his guilt. Ward purchased his firearm legally from Vintage Firearms in Endicott, New York. He passed the requisite background check, and after completing the purchase, he modified the gun using a parts kit and his dad's power drill. The whole modification cost a mere $60. Yet that cheap and illegal change completely altered hundreds of lives forever. The bullets that Ward used were not legally permitted to be sold in New York, and it's not known precisely how he managed to acquire them. It appears that the Friday before the shooting, Ward made a trip to the Tops Friendly Market, likely to scrutinize the layout again. 55-year-old Aaron Salter Jr. was born on September 22, 1966, in Buffalo, New York. He graduated from Hutchinson Technical High School in 1984 and became a police officer in 1989, which was the career he dedicated 29 years to before retiring in 2018. The same year, he began working at Tops as a security guard. Aaron was passionate about traveling, and he loved to collect model cars and play cards. A man of many interests, Aaron played the drums and bass guitar for his church's band. Music brought him so much joy that he truly enjoyed sharing with others. Aaron is survived by Kimberly, his beloved wife of 33 years, 3 children that include a son and 2 daughters, a sister, and numerous other extended family members and friends, and their loss is felt each and every day. Celestine Cheney was a loving mother to 1 son and grandmother to 9 children. Oops, that doesn't make sense. Celestine Cheney was a loving mother to 1 son and grandmother to 9 grandchildren. She graduated from Fosdick Maston Girls Vocational High School and went on to work at M. Weil & Company, where she crafted suits, and also at New Era Cap Company, where she made baseball caps. Celestine was a hard-working woman, but the 65-year-old knew how to have fun, which for her was mostly playing cards. She was even a member of the Queen of Hearts social club, where she was known as a jokester whose joy was making others laugh. On the day of the shooting, Celestine was with her sister, grocery shopping for shortcake cups, strawberries, and shrimp. Her older sister survived the shooting, and the intense loss she suffers each day is indescribable. Celestine was a breast cancer survivor who also pulled through multiple brain aneurysms, and it is incredibly unjust that she be taken from this world in such a way. 32-year-old Roberta Drury grew up in Cicero, New York, but had been living in Buffalo for about 10 years, caring for her brother, who was recovering from leukemia. Known by all as Robbie, she thoroughly enjoyed the time she spent with friends and family, and looked so forward to the annual family trip to Wildwood, New Jersey. Her first instinct was always to hug you, and she genuinely was happiest making others laugh. Robbie is survived by her parents, siblings, and grandparents, and they grieve her absence daily. Andre McNeil was born on March 8, 1969, and appears to have lived in the Buffalo area most of it, if not his whole life. He attended South Park High School, where he played basketball, but he wasn't a typical jock. Andre was a guitar player and loved to listen to music, and he also wrote poetry. More than anything, Andre was a family man. His 5 children were his entire world, and there was nothing he wouldn't have done for them. The 53-year-old will be deeply missed by everyone that knew and loved him. 72-year-old Catherine Massey went by Cat. She was born and raised in Queens, New York, and was a local civil rights advocate in her community. She fought for the place she grew up and loved unconditionally, and her mission was to make a difference. And she did. In the 1980s, Kat was worried about her neighborhood, so she founded the Cherry Street Block Club, and she was affectionately known as the mayor of Cherry Street. Everyone knew and loved Kat, and she had a ton of friends, but two in particular were her very best friends, and the trio was often called the Three Musketeers. Kat was also shopping with her sister when the shooting occurred, and it seems her sister also managed to escape physically unharmed. Kat's generous and giving spirit may be gone, but will never be forgotten by her countless friends and family members. 52-year-old Margus D. Morrison was born in Buffalo, New York, and graduated from McKinley High School before going on to have 7 children he loved dearly. Margus loved life and loved his family even more. He worked hard to provide for them, and he will be remembered for his caring heart, but also his jokes and laughter and his monumental love of sunglasses. In the free time he managed to spare, he enjoyed volunteering as a school bus aide, and it didn't interfere with his affection for cheering on his team, the Buffalo Bills. Margus will be remembered fondly by all those who he has left behind. Hayward Patterson was a deacon at State Tabernacle Church of God in Christ, and a man of intense faith and worship. Hayward often drove the church van to drive around members who didn't have transportation, but he would also stop and take the time to fix small issues around the homes he stopped at. He volunteered at the local soup kitchen, where he was quick to offer words of encouragement and a smile, or a joke to make you laugh. In short, he was a giving soul who dedicated his life to service in order to enrich the lives of others. The revered 67-year-old deacon will never be forgotten. 62-year-old Geraldine Talley was born on June 3, 1959 in Grove Hill, Alabama, and moved to Buffalo in 1971 with her folks and sister. She graduated from Bryant and Stratton College with a degree in secretarial science and was a devoted mother to her 2 children and stepdaughter. Geraldine loved to bake and could often be found sitting near the water, which was a soothing activity for the gregarious woman who will be greatly mourned. Ruth Whitfield was the eldest victim at 86 years old. She had been visiting her husband of 68 years at a local nursing home when she decided to stop and take care of some grocery shopping. Ruth truly loved her family unconditionally, and she leaves behind a massive family that includes 7 siblings, 4 children, 9 grandchildren, and 5 great-grandchildren. Her son, Garnell Whitfield, was the former Buffalo Fire Commissioner, and the highly respected woman will be missed very much. 77-year-old Pearl Young was born in Alabama, but moved to Buffalo in 1967 with her husband. A substitute teacher for Buffalo Public Schools, Pearl also ran a local food pantry, in addition to being a much-loved Sunday school teacher. She was a devoted member of the Good Samaritan Church of God in Christ, and helped out preparing and handing out food in the park on almost every Saturday. Pearl loved baking and cooking, so she never minded the extra work she took on. It fulfilled her, and most that knew her affectionately called her Pearly. She was always present when she was with you, making those who loved her always want to be with her. Her zest for life was beautiful, and everyone who knew her will always miss her bright light in this dark world. Ward was born on June 20th, 2003, and was raised mainly in Conklin, New York, which is approximately 200 miles away from Buffalo. He had to drive back and forth 3.5 hours each way every time he made the trip to Tops Friendly Market. Conklin, the town Ward grew up in, is a mostly white community with a population of about 5,000 residents, and it is nestled along the New York-Pennsylvania borderline. His life growing up was mostly normal, whatever your idea of normal is anyway. Since 2002, Ward lived with his parents and 2 younger brothers in a modest 2-story home that was adorned with black shutters and had neatly trimmed shrubs and a basketball court in the driveway. There was even a pool in the backyard, where the summer prior, a graduation party in Ward's honor was held. It appeared on the outside like your typical all-American family home. His folks were both employed by the state of New York as engineers for the Department of Transportation, and his dad was a long-standing member of one of New York's largest labor unions for state employees, called the Public Employees Federation, and he sat on the union's executive board. According to online records, Ward's parents' combined earnings totaled nearly $200,000 annually, and by all appearances, they seemed like a happy family, who even wore matching outfits for family photos. However, as we are all too keenly aware, the image we present to the world, or on social media, doesn't always accurately depict the real-life issues families deal with. Ward graduated from Susquehanna Valley High School a year earlier, and he enrolled in SUNY Broome Community College in the Engineering Sciences department. The engineering field was something Ward was always interested in. Perhaps he wanted to follow both of his parents' footsteps. When he was in 8th grade, he attended an engineering day at Lockheed Martin, and from there, he was hooked. Ward was registered as a full-time student for the fall 2021 and spring 2022 semesters, and was enrolled through March of 2022, though he wasn't enrolled at any point after March of 2022. For about 3 months during the winter before the shooting, Ward worked at the Conklin Reliable Market, mostly behind the counter, making sandwiches, though he was dually trained as a cashier. Despite some classmates describing Ward as a little odd, nothing seemed terribly amiss until the global pandemic hit in 2020. Admittedly, it was a terrifying time for many, and there's no question that the pandemic changed many people. When restrictions were lifted, and Ward was able to return to school for his senior year, he was undoubtedly very different. He returned to school in full hazmat gear, the suit, gloves, and hood. The entire suit. He'd always been somewhat quiet, but now he really withdrew into himself. Even before the pandemic, Ward was evolving into a recluse, and was slowly disengaging with the friends and family he actually did spend time with. Many other students said that Ward was book smart, and that was a recurring statement by those who knew him. On the other hand, one student stated that Ward was, quote, definitely a little bit of an outcast, and not very social. The same student indicated that Ward was into guns, but this wasn't particularly unusual for where they lived. Lots of people had guns in their community. Ward's entire family, and several friends, expressed complete shock that he could be responsible for such devastation. Some friends of Ward say he was into video games, especially shooter games. And another classmate said she didn't think Ward ever had a girlfriend, but she often caught Ward smiling weirdly at her, which was somewhat off-putting, but not explicit in any way. Some folks later described the family as a little strange, and called Ward's mother conceited, but aside from that, most thought the family was your usual suburban, tight-knit family. Dad coached his children in soccer when they were young, and the family attended fall festivals and beach days and loved playing laser tag. Ward's parents fully believed their son was changed by the pandemic, and seemed to attribute his malicious attack to the toll that the pandemic took on their son's mental health. It was reported that Ward was incredibly paranoid about getting COVID and, indeed, had tested positive for the virus only a few weeks prior to the shooting. It must be noted, however, that Ward spent a great deal of time researching and planning this assault, and it can no way be attributed to his contracting the COVID virus. In fact, Ward had posted a 180-page manifesto before he committed the shooting. Additionally, at the end of his senior year, Ward had the police called on him because he had allegedly made threats to, quote, shoot up events related to the graduation at the high school. On June 8, 2021, Ward was taken into custody and admitted into a nearby hospital for a mental health evaluation. He was kept overnight and subsequently released the following day, and whether he received any treatment is unknown. A mere 2 weeks after the psychiatric evaluation, Ward was allowed to participate in all graduation activities, including riding in the senior parade, where he sat perched atop his father's convertible. It was later discovered that there was an investigation into the threat. However, school officials stated that because there was no specific or credible threat found, no further action was taken. In fact, the Buffalo Police Commissioner stated that the shooter's comments were, quote, generalized statements, and didn't target a specific person. Understandably, many parents were furious that Ward was permitted to attend all school functions after the threat incident. One thing we have come to see and understand in so many shootings is that there often isn't a specific person that is being threatened, but rather a group of people, or even a place. The Buffalo Police Commissioner also stated that the police did, quote, everything within the confines of the law. It's rather shocking because it clearly emboldened the shooter, and it's time that perhaps we revisit what is considered a credible threat before more homegrown active shooters are born. However, it seems getting away with this threat is when and where things really began to change, and Ward was becoming radicalized online, and in practicality, he began building up his personal arsenal. Ward started planning in great detail. As previously mentioned, he researched cities with the most concentration of black residents and kept all of his hateful thoughts inside, so as to not tip anyone off. Ward learned his lesson the last time he spoke up, although there was one other time that he voiced his darkest thoughts when asked about his plans after graduation. To this question, Ward simply replied, murder-suicide. The statement was reported but determined to be minor enough that an investigation was not warranted. On April 15th, Ward wrote online, quote, I literally can't wait any longer. My parents know something is wrong. He continued sharing on certain sites and uploaded many writings to internet file sharing platforms, although they were initially posted on a platform called Discord. The writings describe himself as a teenager who was isolated by his family, and he had very few friends. Ward sought refuge in hate and malice. In addition to the disturbing essays and journaling, Ward was buying weapons and bullets and hiding them around his bedroom. He began to buy and sell silver coins in order to purchase large volumes of ammunition. While his parents were completely unaware of what their son was up to, Ward continued to post online that he told his parents he was attending classes at the local community college, even though he had quit only months earlier. Ward wrote about a specific incident in March where he found a stray, feral cat attacking his own domestic cat. He wrote that he got a knife and stabbed the feral cat over and over again, and then proceeded to smash the animal's head on the cement before beheading it with a hatchet. This is a truly sick and disturbing and clear early sign of someone who is capable of devastating violence. Ward thought the entire incident was great, and even bragged about it online, and went so far as to post a photo and wrote, quote, honestly, right now, I don't feel anything about killing that cat. I thought I would be in pain, but I literally just feel blank. According to the Discord chat app, Ward's messages were a personal diary chat log that only Ward could see unless he invited people to read the writings. A spokesperson for the social media platform reported that, quote, approximately 30 minutes prior to the attack, however, a small group of people were invited to and joined the server. In the messages, Ward wrote about tensions with black students, both at school and while he was growing up. He claimed that once in 6th grade he was suspended for a day because a black student reported that Ward called her the N-word. He continued his rants by addressing his murder-suicide comment at school and how he said it as a joke to get out of class, but later wrote that he wasn't joking. It's time that we start taking these disgusting jokes more seriously and punishing the hateful statements and threats before they can continue to escalate, or, heaven forbid, an active shooter in the making gains the confidence needed to carry out the shooting, only because they didn't get punished when initially discovered. Ward owned the Savage Axis XP bolt-action hunting rifle for years. It was a Christmas present when he turned 16 years old, which is legal in New York. In December of 2021, Ward started purchasing even more firearms, and when his parents thought he was attending classes, he was really researching and preparing for his attack. Ward took several trips to the top supermarket in order to stake out the store, and on one trip, he even got a speeding ticket. He wrote online about how the ticket concerned him because he thought his parents may be tipped off to his plans. The speeding ticket came in the mail, addressed to his father, who the car was registered to. His father confronted Ward about the ticket received in Groveland, New York. It's unclear what he told his parents, but he obviously made up a story that was believable enough. On April 1st, Ward wrote, quote, I feel completely disconnected from my past. It's like I was reborn and was force-fed memories that I'm supposed to believe are connected to me, but in reality it's not. A former classmate, Matthew Kasow, reported that Ward told him that he didn't like school because he was lonely and didn't have any friends, so Matthew tried to befriend him. The boys hung out and watched YouTube videos and played video games. They even went to flea markets and shooting on state land. Matthew claims that Ward never talked about violence or committing any attacks, though his online activity clearly shows otherwise. Approximately 589 pages of online diary postings were recovered, and just prior to committing the shooting, Ward invited several people to view his Discord diary. And about 15 people accepted the invite, with the heading, Happening. This is not a drill. The invite contained a link to the live stream of the shooting on Twitch, and as many as 22 people were viewing the live stream at one point. Twitch had the video disabled within 2 minutes, but as mentioned, it aired long enough to be viewed and shared. Ward was arraigned in Buffalo City Court on the same day as the shooting. He was charged with first-degree murder and was denied bail. 5 days after the shooting, Ward was indicted on a single charge of first-degree murder, which was all that was needed at the time to hold Ward in jail until the Attorney General could prepare their full case against the shooter. On June 1st, Ward was indicted by a grand jury on 25 counts, which included 1 count of domestic terrorism motivated by hate, 10 counts of first-degree murder as a hate crime, 10 counts of second-degree murder as a hate crime, 3 counts of attempted second-degree murder as a hate crime, and 1 count of second-degree murder criminal possession of a weapon. He was arraigned on June 2nd, 2022 in Erie County Court, where he pleaded not guilty on all 25 counts. On June 15th, he was charged with 26 counts of federal hate crimes and additional gun charges. He faces the death penalty for these federal crimes. In August of this year, Ward's attorney tried to delay the state trial for a year while the federal case proceeded. The reason was because his attorneys felt that the state case could negatively affect efforts by Ward's federal defense attorneys. No trial date has been set for the state or federal trial as of this writing, and it could take federal prosecutors up to a year to announce whether they will seek the death penalty or not. Either way, we will update you when that happens. You see, we all have the unique ability to help prevent such a catastrophic event from happening. If we keep our eyes and ears open and never hesitate to report when something or someone just doesn't seem right. It is our sincerest wish that there will be no more active or mass shooting stories to tell. We pray that love will prevail over hate.
Too many have died. We should say to ourselves, not one more.
In the meantime, we urge our listeners to stay aware of your surroundings and keep in touch with your loved ones. If you see something, say something. You never know how many lives you'll be saving.